Welcome back to another episode of Made in Northern New York. I'm Olivia Grant.
And I'm Josh Bond. We're standing out in front of St. Lawrence Spirits Chateau for this episode of Made in Northern New York, all about the St. Lawrence River.
After this segment, we talk to someone from Zenda Farms.
And then we're going to teach you a little bit about Pirates Weekend and the history of Bill Johnston and Alex Bay.
First up, I talked to Christian from St. Lawrence Spirits and Chateau. Let's do it.
Let's get started.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Can you tell me a little bit about St. Lawrence Spirits Chateau and maybe some history around it?
St. Lawrence Spirits Chateau is a full-service farm-to-table restaurant. It was actually built as a private residence, and when that person passed away, he actually left it to the Sisters of the Holy Cross. And so for a long time, this place was actually a convent and a summer residence for the Sisters of the Holy Cross. They did have classrooms here. The room we're sitting in right now was actually a working classroom. So it's a little neat with the history there. Another gentleman purchased it after the sisters sold it, and he started a restaurant. That did not last, and so Jody and Doreen Garrett purchased it, and they spoke to me about coming in, and we had some concepts and ideas. I had some concepts and ideas. I've always loved the place, so I decided, we decided it was a really good fit for me to jump on the team.
Tell me more about the farm-to-table aspect.
Farm-to-table, we like to work with as many local farms as we possibly can. We do have a 2,000-acre ranch that the Garretts own, Lucky Star Ranch as well, outside of town, between DePauville and Chameau. And what we have out there is 2 greenhouses. So we are actually self-sustaining for our own greens needs. We actually grow all of our own collard greens, all of our own bok choy, microgreens, which are very expensive to purchase, but very beautiful as well. So we grow all those ourselves, a lot of our own fresh herbs, edible flowers. We are starting our own beef program this fall. We have a red deer program that we utilize restaurant, and also a trout program that we just started at the ranch as well. And
we have some beautiful bottles of liquor here.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Spirit of the river in every bottle, and we state that because the water for Spirit is actually pumped directly from the bottom of the hill and sent right up to the distillery right here on site. So everything is made on house, and also all local as well. Our rye, our corn, our wheat is all grown local. Our newest addition to the line, our Empire Cream, which is our cream whiskey, no additives, no extra color to it. All the dairy from that is out of Batavia, New York. All the rye, the wheat, the corn used to make the whiskey for that is all locally grown and sourced as well. So it's used farm to table all over, from the cocktails and the spirits all the way to the food.
So at ABC 50, we have this mantra kind of called living local. Can you tell us what that means to you?
Living local. Living local and buying local, I think it's great, especially for a restaurant's aspect. When you're buying from the big box stores, you really don't know where your food's coming from. You know your sales reps, you know these people, and they're great people. I'm not taking that away from them at all. But now with the farm to table aspect, you're actually able to shake the farmer's hand. You go to the farm, you can see their pigs, out at Lucky 7 Farms out in Rodman. You can go to Danny Baker's farm over at Wellesley Island, Cross Island Farms, and see her goats and see them as babies all the way up to fruition to where you're actually serving them in your restaurant or using them for my classes at JCC. It's just meeting those people, knowing them, knowing their children, so you really get to see where the impact lies. You're seeing your money go somewhere, you're seeing dance lessons being purchased, you're seeing that money being spent local and not be going anywhere else.
Can you tell me how long the Chateau has been going and how long your partnership with St. Lawrence Spirits has been going on?
St. Lawrence Spirits was actually introduced first to the area. St. Lawrence Spirits, they started back in 2016, so a couple years ago. St. Lawrence Spirits Chateau, we like to actually say we're a distillery with a restaurant, not the other way around. But the Chateau, this is our second season for St. Lawrence Spirits Chateau. Having a great year with it, actually doing very well. We're busy. We tend to offer a lot. We try to cater to most demographics as we can. We do our brunch crowd, we do our lunch crowd, we do our fine dining in the evening 5 nights a week. We have also implemented this summer our patio dining. So if you still want to come out in the evening at 5 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock and sit outside in a patio, you can go out and still have burgers, charcuterie boards, a nice tuna wrap, wrapped with our own house-grown Bibb lettuce. So a lot of different things we can offer now to people.
Yeah, there's a little something for everyone, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And I'm actually just curious to know what your favorite cocktail is here.
My favorite cocktail is the Hunter's Cocktail. It's one of my creations. It consists of our house-made Rye Knot whiskey, Perique tobacco liqueur, which we get directly from France, black cherries, and some local fresh maple syrup as well from Krager Farms in Tug Hill.
After hearing about the cocktails and how many local ingredients go into the liquor, we ventured over to the distillery to see how the spirits are made.
This is our mash cooker. What we do here, we put about 1,000 pounds of grain in here, and then we boil it, we cook it for about an hour, and that converts the starches that are in the grains into simple sugars. And then we cool it down, and once it's cooled down to about 75, 80 degrees, then we transfer it to the fermenters. We throw some yeast in there, a little bit of enzymes, and then 3 to 4 days, the yeast has converted all that sugar to alcohol by volume, so we get about 12% alcohol by volume in the fermenters. We have 8 fermenters, and therefore we can do one day, the next day, the next day, so we keep the process going. Once the yeast has converted all the sugars to alcohol, then we transfer everything with the pump into the still. It's a 500-gallon still. And then we basically use steam. The steam jacketed on the bottom, and it boils off the alcohol vapor. In the case of whiskeys, it goes up through our column, across to our copper condenser, comes out, and whiskey has to be distilled at 160 proof or below. It comes out just like this. It's clear when it comes out.
So cool. Even for whiskey?
For whiskey.
Wow, okay.
When we do whiskey, it goes through the still twice.
Okay.
First time is what we call a stripping run, where we take all the alcohol that we can get out. We just do it fast. We collect that up 3 or 4 times. We put it in our totes. And then once we have that week's done, then we take those totes, we put the alcohol back in the still, and we do it slowly.
Okay.
And then we cook it off. We cut the heads, the hearts, and the tails. And this is our tank where we do that. So as it comes across, they're actually going to take this, and they're going to stick their finger in the stream, and they're going to touch it to their tongue.
Okay.
And that tells them, when they're looking for the heads, which is the poisonous part of the alcohol that we don't want to drink, it's very hot and burns, and they taste it back and forth. And as soon as that changes, then they take a valve over here in the tank, they turn the valve, that separates and cuts the heads off into one tank, and then it becomes the hearts. This is the heads tank.
Okay.
Then this will be the hearts tank, which is the biggest part. And then at the end, as we're tasting it, it starts to drop off in proof, and that's the tails. It's not poisonous, but it tastes really bad. Okay. So we cut that off, and so we save the hearts. Okay. And then this is what we will proof down and bottle in a capper. So it's a semi-automatic kind of thing. Right. And even our labeler is semi-automatic. You've got to put each bottle in there by hand and turn it around. We can do 600 bottles in about 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
Once we get going. So once the whiskey comes out of the still the first time, it's clear. That's really moonshine. That's technically moonshine. Unaged whiskey is moonshine.
Okay.
What we do is we either bottle it as moonshine or we put it in barrels. We put it in the barrels that sits in the barrel for at least a year, and then it's kind of ready when it's ready, so we taste it all the time out of the barrel, and that tells us when we're going to harvest it. And then we have a special harvest table over here where we dump the barrels in. We use reverse osmosis water to proof it down, and then we run it through our bottling line here again with some filtration.
So how does it get its brown color?
The brown is all from the barrel. So it goes in clear, and these barrels are charred on the inside. So it's a charcoal on the inside. That gives it the color, it gives it a lot of the flavoring comes from that. So you put good moonshine in, let the barrel do its work, and then you get great whiskey out, which tastes like vanilla and chocolate and these different flavors. It all comes from the barrel.
Wow, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep, there you go.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, and with bourbon and rye, it can only be used once. The barrel has to be new. It can only be used once. Some of our other products, we can reuse the barrels multiple times.